It's amazing to see what passes for gaming on your mobile phone, but id Software has developed a couple of elite mobile RPGs that are actually pretty good. One is based on Doom. The other lesser-known game is a fantasy dungeon crawl called Orcs and Elves, which has been ported to the Nintendo DS. As one of the few games to go from mobile to handheld, how has the translation been handled? Set in a generic fantasy realm, you play as an elf warrior in possession of a powerful and talkative magic wand. A mysterious message prompts you to journey to the mountain home of the dwarves. Things don't look good as you discover the place overrun with orcs and other foul creatures. As you travel to different parts of the dwarves' underground city in search of the cause of the problem, you'll encounter sneaky ratmen, sinister mages, and even a cranky dragon. It's all generic fantasy fare that's riddled with conventions, yet for a handheld RPG, its simple premise is easy to digest and ingest in small chunks. Orcs and Elves is a fairly basic dungeon crawl, which is no great surprise given its origin as a cell phone game. Your quest will take you through less than a dozen maze-like levels, where you'll defeat monsters, solve simple environmental puzzles, accumulate golden treasure, and of course become more powerful. Despite the extremely simple nature of the game, Orcs and Elves remains pretty engaging the whole way through. This is mostly due to the level design. Each new area presents a unique environment and set of challenges. In one area, you might need to hunt down a thieving rat who made off with some of your stuff, while in another, you're negotiating a cavern filled with deadly traps. There aren't a whole lot of surprises here in terms of items and loot. You start out with a basic sword and your magic wand. As you progress through the game, you'll gain access to better swords and armor, several different magic items, and a bunch of different potions. Your wand gradually increases in power and, at predetermined points in the game, will gain new spells for you to use. The treasure that you've collected can be used to buy additional weapons and equipment from a surly dragon that lives in a mountain. Most monsters have some kind of combat specialty or gimmick that needs to be considered. Some are vulnerable to fire attacks, while others are extremely resistant to magical attacks. When attacking a mix of foes, it often pays to take out certain monsters first. For instance, if there's a wraith nearby, he can raise any creature you've recently slain, making things much more difficult for you. Much like the story, the game's design is nothing out of the ordinary, yet oddly compelling. The rewards are parceled out like a morphine drip, giving you just enough motivation to keep on grinding. The truth is, there isn't that much grinding to be done because Orcs and Elves, even by handheld standards, is a short-lived experience. In the conversion to the DS, the game has been made much easier to play. The auto-map can remain open on the lower screen, making it nearly impossible to get lost. Almost any item or power you need is just a touch away thanks to the stylus controls. The gameplay has been augmented somewhat with the addition of special touchscreen spellcasting, but it doesn't really add much to the game. It's the overall candor, however, that holds the game back to a degree. Because it's so simple, and also so very, very short, many of the magic items don't really have much use. It would have helped to have a bit more strategic interaction between the game world and the items you collect. There's also a mood and bartering system that comes into play when you interact with the dragon that doesn't appear to have much point, given the fact that you usually have more than enough money to buy whatever you need. Orcs and Elves is a no-frills RPG. The clean 3D engine does have a few tricks up its sleeve. While normally confined to grid-based movement, the game occasionally takes control of the camera to dramatically swoop around an area to show what other characters are doing. Sound and music is sparse, but appropriate for the style of game. Interestingly, it's the story that will grab you the most. There's nothing terribly epic about it, but the few characters you interact with are interesting, especially your talking wand, and the dialogue is written in a light, breezy, tongue-in-cheek style that's a refreshing change of pace from the oppressively gloomy tone that's present in many RPGs. If anything, Orcs and Elves will remind you of the old-school classic PC RPGs like Lands of Lore and Eye of the Beholder, which is to say that there's not a lot of originality here. But given the restrictions, id's first DS game is a success. A longer quest would have been welcome, but for the short time you're playing, you'll have a good time.